I can touch it.
These are the top 25 legendary villain entrances in the movies Volume 2. To kick things off, we have an entrance as cold as ice. Shimo is one of the most powerful titans in the MonsterVerse franchise, and her entrance was befitting of my claim. Kong was already adapting to Scar King quite easily, so I don't think his entry was worth covering for now. Shimo, however, totally stole the show with her Ice Blast, and she actually got King freaking Kong to lose an arm without even having to put in any effort. Just seeing those blue eyes against the dark backdrop was enough to tell us that a final boss level entity is about to introduce itself. Can't wait to see more of her in future projects.
Leave there your convenience and sit, Lord.
Pardon me, sir.
Your Lord.
My lord. Forgive me, my lord.
Up next is the King of the Creeps back in 2024. No, I'm not talking about Pedro Pascal's anxiety, but rather the modern version of Count Orlok. Some people may find his manner of speaking odd, but in the theatres, that voice resonates in your bones. You could hear a pin drop. That's how quiet the crowd got just from the sheer strength and authority in it. Robert Eggers nailed it with the tense surroundings, which shows how promising he is as a modern-era horror director. Even Nicholas Hoult did a splendid job of conveying what primal fear looks like. Too bad he had to turn it into unnecessary rage against Superman later on.
War married, Herr Otter.
It's nothing.
I might ease your wounds.
Well, here's a very different Nicolas Cage. Hollywood's favourite madman has played a horror character so well that one scare is all it takes for him to make it to this list. It's one of the most intense opening sequences I've seen in recent years, and the credit has to be shared between Nick Cage and the cinematographers for it. That sudden face reveal creeped the daylights out of me, and for the title to be shown right after was a stroke of genius. Also, I didn't notice until watching this again, but the opening drive is from the POV of the doll behind the veil. That's just conjecture based on my understanding of the movie, though.
The almost birthday girl. It seems I wore my long legs today. What happens if I...
What a nice boat. Do you want it back?
Yes, please.
Let's bring out the real clowns now. No offense to Nick Cage, but this is one of the craziest entrances in the world of horror. Stephen King's made a career out of turning everyday stuff into nightmare fuel, and honestly, storm drains were already halfway there. Most adults wouldn't dare look twice, but a kid, especially one chasing after a paper boat, is exactly where curiosity wins, and that's when Pennywise strikes with his red balloon in hand. Andy Muschietti's It isn't the first to bring this scene to life, but it's definitely the most brutal. The 2017 version amps up the horror with sharp tension and cold, deliberate pacing. It's not just the gore, it's the slow build and the way Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise stares out with those icy eyes and crooked smile. The cinematography traps you right there in that drain with George, feeling every second of dread. Skarsgård's unsettling sing-song voice lures you in just enough, and by the time the bite comes, you already know it's too late. Bill Skarsgård sure knows this genre, doesn't he?
Take it, Georgie.
Up next, the heads have arrived, and that's a very literal statement. King Ghidorah's creature design is sick, but I didn't think they could make his entrance even cooler with the added effects. It's all about the build-up here, as we don't get a clear view of the monster right until the director decides to show him in all of his glory. The darkness may seem annoying at first, but it does accentuate the effect of the lightning blasts. Also, the way the heads appear happen to showcase that each of them has a different personality. That's a big plus point for any Godzilla or Ghidorah fans out there. He's purely CGI, but I still really liked him, even when compared to other cinematic versions. In at number 20 is a pretty legendary demon. It's also a highly symbolic entrance, because there's no proper physical form we see here. One wild thing about The Exorcist is that the demon never actually gets a name in the movie. In the book it's called Pazuzu, but on screen it just says, "I'm the devil." And honestly, that's enough to send chills down our spines. Still, the first real sign of evil doesn't happen in that bedroom scene, it starts way earlier. The movie opens in the ruins of Hatra, Iraq, where Father Merrin stumbles upon a creepy statue of the demon. From there, the vibe slowly shifts. The clock stops ticking, the dogs start fighting, and the air feels heavy, like something dark has woken up. William Friedkin films it like a quiet travel documentary at first, with no jump scares or horror tricks, which results in calm, eerie stillness. Then, you see that massive statue and it hits you. The evil is real, and it's coming. Up next is a super impactful cameo from the one and only Jason Statham. Deckard Shaw was just a random dude who showed up out of nowhere right at the end of Furious 6, but man, he gave us a crazy appearance. At first, we're thinking, who the heck is Han even racing against? And then he loses, which is even more of a shocker. Naturally, the audience wants to know who this mysterious badass is, and we get exactly what we want when Mr. Statham shows his face and sends his threat to Dom Toretto. This is back when he was still a villain, so it definitely counts.
Dominic Toretto. You don't know me. You're about to.
Now we have Oren Ishii totally slaying her entrance. I just love how she walks like she owns the place. Quentin Tarantino's always been a genius when it comes to picking the right music for the scene, and this one is no different. The whole vibe that Lucy Liu brings with her is phenomenal, and I also love the decision to take 2 beats and then zoom into her. This is the kind of swagger that even rap artists don't have nowadays. Seriously, even Uma Thurman couldn't give off this much swagger, and she's the main character. By the way, I'm still hopeful of a spin-off series based on her life. This one's no surprise at all. Thor's big sister isn't very polite, as can be seen here. Hela's been sealed away for God knows how long, and the first thing she tells her brother is to kneel? What in the Daenerys Targaryen is this? Of course, her appearance itself was quite commanding, and I had no idea Cate Blanchett could pull off such a character, as if she was born to play this role. And yes, if this wasn't good enough, we all know what she does to poor little Mjolnir not long after. It takes a lot to completely shock Thor, but Hela made it look like child's play.
Am I pronouncing this right? Mr. Raz Al Ghul?
Not Ra's al Ghul.
Are his methods supernatural?
Here's a villain we don't talk about enough. This may not be our first time seeing Ra's al Ghul, but it's one heck of an entrance to see Sensei burning down Batman's mansion. Of course, the moment Bruce Wayne finds out that Ra's is here, you can see a slight sense of panic setting in. The camera pans to Ra's face as if he was always there, which is what makes the scene even more unsettling. Burning down everything was kind of like a bonus, if I'm being honest here. Special shout out to Alfred for calling out Bruce when he wasn't able to lift a log despite all of those push-ups.
Fast away! What is the point of all those push-ups if you can't even lift a bloody log?
Die.
Oh yes, this is the one that I should have included a while ago. It's a moment when two horror icons meet and clash. Freddy versus Jason was a definite moment in pop culture, although we haven't really seen any further crossovers between them. The entrance here is technically for both because Mr. Krueger is brought into the real world, but the spotlight is definitely on Jason Voorhees. Just look at how badass he's made to appear. Even Freddy's like, oh crap. The fight that followed was awesome, but if we're going by entrances alone, this was a sure pick.
Up here!
Hello, James. Alec, back from the dead.
Sean Bean will never get a proper role, will he? A man had to die twice in GoldenEye, but at least Alec gave us a crazy reveal. James Bond may not have liked learning that his buddy was leading Janus, but it does work quite well for the story, doesn't it? There's nothing fanciful about Alec here, apart from the fact that his mind works in sinister ways. 007 saw him seemingly getting executed the last time they were together, and that makes this moment hit even harder than Saitama's serious punch. Alec repeating some of his other lines was also a smart move, because now we have proper context for them. Now imagine if he also somehow said, "Winter is coming, James."
007's loyalty was always to the mission, never to his friend. Last call. For England, James.
I live in the American Gardens building on West 81st Street. My name is Patrick Bateman. I'm 27 years old.
Look who's up next. It's the poster boy of Sigma males all around the world. It's kind of a cheat to call this Patrick Bateman's first scene in American Psycho, but it's definitely one that introduces him properly to the audience. The movie technically opens with him at dinner, tossing around shallow insults with other Wall Street clones, but that's just a setup, isn't it? It shows how forgettable and surface level these guys are, and Bateman's just another face in the crowd. Then comes the morning routine, and because it's true. Bateman looks perfect on the outside, but inside, there's nothing.
There is an idea of a Patrick Bateman, but there is no real me. Only an entity, something illusory. You can even sense our lifestyles are probably comparable. I simply am not there.
I am Dracula. It's really good to see you. I bid you welcome.
If Patrick Bateman was the symbol of Chads, then here's the symbol of horror. Yes, the legend himself has arrived, so give it up for Dracula. There's a reason that even after almost a century, when people hear this name, they still picture Bela Lugosi. The guy basically became the vampire blueprint, right? With his slick accent, piercing stare, and smooth confidence, Lugosi turned Dracula from a creepy old monster into this classy, hypnotic figure who barely needs to speak to be terrifying. Before him, vampires were more like ghouls, but Lugosi made the character feel weirdly charming, and that's what stuck. His first scenes are easily the best part of the film. Shot by director Todd Browning and cinematographer Carl Freund, the Transylvania sequences are pure vintage horror gold. There's no fancy dialogue, only eerie visuals. Then Dracula rises from the shadows with his brides, and the camera slowly zooms in as he stares right through you. When he finally speaks, the iconic voice seals the deal.
Listen to them, children of the night. What music they make.
I am your the Redeemer!
It's coming. Get ready.
I feel like this guy should show up more often in my videos. He doesn't even need full visibility to make an impact in his entrance. Immortan Joe's entire vibe is a performance. Yes, every detail of his look feels staged and crafted to make him seem larger than life. Director George Miller and costume designer Jenny Beavan really went off on him too. Joe breathes through a mask painted with a demonic grin, with his long white hair flowing like some twisted warlord. From a distance, he looks like a god of the wasteland, but then you look closer, the illusion cracks. That muscular body is just armor sculpted over a sagging, diseased torso, and those red eyes are really just bloodshot from age and decay. What makes his introduction so powerful is the honesty of it. The film shows us the man before the myth, a sick old tyrant barely kept alive by his breathing machine, desperately clinging to the little control he has left. Then, seconds later, he's barking orders to the starving crowd about not becoming addicted to water, as if that's wisdom. It's both grotesque and pathetic, but also a perfect setup for one of cinema's most delusional villains.
Do not, my friends, become addicted to water. Resent its absence.
Kicking off my top 10 is a terror-fueled massacre. The McBain family is basically wiped out before we even meet Frank, who's played by Henry Fonda. Sergio Leone sets it up in these distant, quiet wide shots. There's no close-ups or warnings or anything like that, just an eerie calm before the storm. By the time we finally see Fonda, only one young boy is left standing. Leone lets the camera slowly spin around to reveal Frank's face, and it shocks us all. Those soft blue eyes that used to belong to Hollywood's good guy look almost gentle as he stares at that terrified kid. Then comes the gut punch. He delivers some chilling lines before pulling the trigger, but his eyes never change. They keep that unsettling half smile even after the shot. It's a brutal twist that flips Fonda's wholesome image on its head. With that one moment, Leone made it clear that old Hollywood morality was long gone. That's the power of progressive cinema.
What are we gonna do with this one, Frank?
Now that you've called me by name, the Dark Lord shall rise again.
He was there in Volume 1, but that doesn't matter. After all, Voldemort is so goated that he has multiple entrances that can make it to 2 separate top 10 lists. I do feel this one's a bit better though, because there's tons of aura farming on display when he materializes in front of the boy who lived. Yeah, Harry Potter just couldn't catch a break here, could he? The visual choices were spot on, as the audience needed to break a sweat upon seeing Voldemort return, and the crew sure succeeded at that. You know, I heard that in the books Voldemort has red eyes, but Ralph Fiennes had requested to not wear contact lenses because he wanted the audience to see his natural blue eyes to make them remember that this evil creature was once a man. I mean, that's a pretty cool choice if you ask me.
Oh. Such a handsome boy.
Don't touch him!
I'd introduce you, but word has it you're almost as famous as me these days. Things have changed. I can touch you.
Michael's around someplace. Take off that thing.
Let's go upstairs.
Okay.
Here's a classic case of a character not being seen, but still being completely visible to the audience. You may not know this, but Michael Myers famously doesn't even get his name in the credits of 1978's Halloween. Yeah, Nick Castle is listed as The Shape. Now, the ghostly white mask and simple silhouette are what everyone remembers, but that's not how we actually meet him, is it? The real introduction comes in the film's shocking opening. It's a 4-minute single take that puts the camera in the eyes of the killer, showing us exactly what he sees as he prepares on Halloween night. We watch him slowly slowly put on a mask, grab a big kitchen knife, and finally attack a teenage girl in her bedroom. She realizes who he is just before he ends her. Then the camera leaves the house, revealing that the shape is actually just a little boy holding a knife and completely unfazed by what he's done. John Carpenter sets the tone perfectly in this opener with a mix of quiet dread and cold brutality that sticks with you and never lets up for the rest of the movie.
Michael?
I did compliment Dracula a lot, but you just can't surpass the actual OG. Count Orlok may have been created to avoid IP issues, but he's still a rendition of Dracula, and his entrance here is everything. Over a century ago, this villain created the blueprint on how to scare people without needing to go over the top. It is absolute cinema without even a shred of a doubt. Now, I did mention the latest version of the movie earlier, and while that dude is pretty messed up too, there's no comparison when you look at the legacy this moment left behind. It was enough to give people countless nightmares back in the day, so it deserves all the bragging rights it gets. Max Schreck totally outdid himself and set a very high standard for those who followed after him.
The fires of Mount Doom, the Dark Lord Sauron forged in secret into this ring. He poured his cruelty, his malice. One ring to rule them all.
How can we not include such an amazing franchise in the middle of all of this? Sauron is the perfect example of when you can't stop aura farming, even in the middle of a war. But yeah, this is indeed how you make an entrance. Sauron shows up in the opening of the Fellowship of the Ring and immediately looks like the final boss of all fantasy villains. The crazy part is that he's barely in the movie after that. His intro is so visually intense and flat out terrifying that it earns a spot on any list, even though he's basically gone for the rest of the trilogy. The whole sequence screams, do not mess with this guy, and honestly, audiences were convinced Middle-earth was doomed if he ever came back. Technically, it's just a suit of armor crafted by Angela Dixon and Richard Taylor, but the way Peter Jackson films it is pure genius. We see Sauron towering over soldiers and crushing them with every swing while fire blazes behind him like the gates of hell just opened. Add Cate Blanchett's calm yet chilling narration, plus Howard Shore's dark booming score, and you got a villain intro that feels biblical.
She was dead. That was her sister.
In at number 5 is something straight out of the history books. I'm not kidding. This scene tries to spook us all the way back in the 1930s. The OG Wicked Witch of the West basically wrote the rulebook for fantasy villains on the big screen. After all, she's far from just making an entrance. She teleports in through a swirl of red smoke like it's her personal effects stage, instantly flipping the whole mood of the scene, especially in that era. Back when the movie dropped, people in theaters were stunned. No one had seen anything like it, and that mix of movie magic and pure attitude made her unforgettable. Margaret Hamilton played and owned the role like a total queen. Sure, she might not seem all that scary now, but she didn't need to be. It was the energy, the sass, and the commitment that made her iconic. And of course, that high-pitched cackle and that line, "I'll get you, my pretty,"
I'll get you, my pretty.
still live rent-free in pop culture. Over 85 years later, it's still instantly recognizable.
You stay out of this, Glinda, or I'll fix you as well. Very well. I'll bide my time.
What kind of a spy do you think you are, Satchelfoot? What are you tailing me for? Come on out. Come out, whoever you are.
Wow, we're definitely hitting the classics back to back, aren't we? I guess old does happen to be gold, eh? Apparently, Orson Welles had a blast playing Harry Lime. For most of The Third Man, the character is built up through gossip, eulogies and anticipation, but we don't actually meet him. Holly Martins arrives in post-World War II Vienna thinking his childhood friend Harry is dead and a good guy, but everyone, including Harry's worried girlfriend, insists he's 6 feet under. Then, about 65 minutes in, Holly notices he's being followed. A neighbor flips on a light and suddenly, in a dark doorway, he sees Harry. Wells gives that iconic devilish grin and disappears again into the shadows. The payoff is perfect as Harry isn't just alive, but also thriving on the black market, selling watered-down penicillin that harms sick children. By the time Holly has to face the ultimate betrayal of a friend, that one fleeting grin lingers, showing Harry Lime can charm, terrify, and vanish in a single moment.
Frechheit ist das, mitten in der Nacht so einen Krawall zu machen.
Where are we going?
Swimming!
Giant creatures are having a blast today, aren't they? As Roy Schneider, one of the most terrifying sequences ever filmed. It's proof that what you don't show can be far scarier than anything on screen.
Where's the goat?
Oh look, it's another Spielberg classic. It's also when a dinosaur surpassed the main characters. Unlike Drake's failed lawsuit, the jury's still out on whether Rexy is actually a hero or a villain, but I definitely feel like she's an antagonist, at least during her entrance. Now look, Jurassic Park has always meant to be a horror story, but things have to be made differently if you want to grab that PG-13 rating for some big bucks, right? Luckily for us, it didn't deter what is easily the most iconic portrayal of a monster in Hollywood. The moment you see that T-Rex breaking out of its enclosure, you think the others would have just resigned themselves to fate. That roar is possibly the greatest money shot of the 90s too. At number 1 is the T-1000 from Judgment Day. His entrance is one of the many moments when the sequel surpassed the original. James Cameron sets up the scene quite nicely, considering we're in a secluded area and those lightning effects also enhance the overall atmosphere. And then we see him, the main villain of the second Terminator film, who somehow managed to one-up even Arnold Schwarzenegger's portrayal of the antagonist from the first film. That's a rare honor, but one look at this insane android is enough to tell us that he doesn't understand the meaning of the word mercy. You know, when I first saw this as a child, I actually thought this guy was like an upgraded version of Kyle Reese. Boy, was I wrong about that. Hope you liked the video. Please subscribe to the TV Regent, and here's another video that I know you're going to enjoy.